Before we get started, this video is brought to you by FiGGYZ, the brand new Pop Magnet collectibles from First 4 Figures. The Persona 5 line launched a little bit ago, and they look just as great as the Metaphor line. Make sure to click the link in the description below or use the code Macca at checkout to save 5% off any orders over $50. Combine that with the automatic 5% discount for orders over $40, and that's 10% off your whole order. FiGGYZ, buy them and stick them to trees. Thank you to FiGGYZ, and now on with the video. Hello everybody, how you doing? That's great. Hey, it's been about a month since Raito Remastered released, and a ton of people have gotten their hands on it. If I'm being honest, I don't think it's incorrect to say that this is easily the best received remaster/remake Atlus has ever made. And I mean remaster/remake. Get that Vengeance Royal full body crap out of here! Personally, I loved it. I never played the original Raito, so to finally sit down and experience it with an overhauled combat system and plenty of quality of life features was just swell, you know? If you want to hear more of what I thought, make sure you go watch my review. Link is in the top right. Obligatory plug. But what reviewers think of a game doesn't always line up with what the average player thinks. I've seen a ton of praise from fans, but I've also noticed some negativity brewing around Raito's grand return. And while it hasn't been that long since the last dumb Atlus Twitter arguments video, I thought I could justify a follow-up by pitting Raito lovers versus Raito haters. So let's take a look at what everyone had to say and have a conversation about it, shall we? FiGGYZ says, I think Atlus should just start putting Raito as the guest boss everywhere instead of Demi-Fiend or Joker, because I like his sword more. I agree, especially for Demi-Fiend. Joker... Let's be real. Joker is in a lot of things because it's supposed to help sell. It's supposed to be like, oh, look. It's the Persona 5 man. Don't you want to check out this other thing? But I think they could kind of flip things. Where, like, even just putting Demi-Fiend in things was also like, hey, you should get SMT5. Demi-Fiend is in it. He's DLC, but he's in it. Isn't that cool? Even Digital Devil Saga, in a certain way, that's also kind of what it was. Demi-Fiend's in it, check it out, he's a secret boss, do it. But I think they could kind of flip it on its head in a way, and make him a guest boss in other things, but rather than using it to promote the new game, to be like, hey, check this game out, Raito's in it, maybe they could do that for, you know, the diehard fans, but they could also use it to be like, hey, you got this new game, check out Raito. There's more to be gained from putting Raito in something, especially if you want to make new games starring Raito. There's more to be gained from it. Demi-Fiend, I doubt they're ever going to be putting him as the main character in another SMT game. I don't think we're going to be getting a SMT Nocturne Apocalypse, if you catch my drift. I don't think he's really going to be showing up in anything other than cameos, whereas Raito, there is a genuine chance that we could get another one. It probably wouldn't be the same Raito, considering some of the comments from Yamai talking about a modern day Raito, but he could still look the same and it would still be, you know, Raito, quote unquote. So, you know, promotion. There's more to be gained from putting Raito in things. Joker, I wouldn't say he should replace Joker, only because Joker just has more draw to new games, whereas Demi-Fiend I don't think has anywhere near the same level of draw, and it would be more beneficial to instead use that guest cameo to promote Raito's game. Lux Eterna says, I think if they replaced the magic attacks with elemental bullets that did way less damage, but were unlimited and you could use them to hit weaknesses, it would help a lot with the balance, because even on Truth Seeker, I didn't struggle much. Also, no demon co-op moves is kinda lame. I can see the argument for this. I think that the way magic works right now is fine. Maybe it's, you know, a little clunky, but I think it worked for me. However, with elemental bullets, that would give more usability to the gun, because while I did think the gun controlled super well, and I did use it occasionally, I didn't use it that much. It just really never felt like it was the best option, except in instances where the enemy was weak to gun. So I would go hours without touching it and pulling it out. But if there were elemental bullets, that would encourage me to use the gun even more. And just to show that I'm not the only person who thinks this, Lightning the Rain Transforms says they should have buffed the bullets. Yeah, no, I definitely see where you're coming from. I think the way it is right now isn't bad, but I think this does have potential. As for demon co-op moves, yeah, that would have been neat. just have some more of those, please. That would be cool. Okay, so I'm going to give a spoiler warning for this next one because I do want to talk about it, but this is some late game Raito stuff. So if you don't want to get spoiled on Raito Remastered, skip to this timestamp on screen so you don't have to see it. Just Another Primal Aspid says, I may get killed for this, but I don't mind some of the SMT1 references getting cut off, mostly because I feel like it helps the game stand more on its own instead of relying on one a lot. But I think they've gone a bit too far with it. Now, I can't give an opinion on how far they've gone, whether or not they've gone too far. I don't really know what the references were that got cut. I don't have that frame of reference. But I can imagine a couple of spots where this was probably one of the references that got cut because there's something there that, was not there. It wouldn't have been possible for them to include this, let's say, back when the original game released. But in terms of the cutting of the references, I can understand where you'd be coming from, but I think when it comes to specifically the plot of Raito and why this is all happening, I actually disagree with you on this. I think the SMT1 and by extension SMT2 references are actually kind of necessary because it gives this extra layer of like, oh, I understand where Raito the 40th is coming from because I literally played through it. I know what they're dealing with, and it helps inform their actions where it's like, oh, they are like evil, it's like almost like almost a little cartoonishly evil in the way that they talk about it. But when you actually know where they're coming from, it's like, I get it. I kind of get it, I kind of get it. So I'm just gonna have to disagree with you there. I think the SMT1 references, it's less so trying to use those references to elevate Raito, and it's more so using those to inform the actions of the main villain. Moving over to Blue Sky, Jenai says, I don't even have the new release, but it's automatically better than the original because they've restored the Mahjong LOL. If I could play Mahjong, I would agree. Pepperoni Drizzle says, hot take, we deserve remake or at least a port of both Digital Devil Saga games more. Okay, here's the thing. I would adore DDS remasters, especially if they were of similar quality to this. However, I think Raito is actually not only just the smarter decision, but I think it's also just the better decision overall. DDS is a cul-de-sac. That is a story that finished. There's no possibility of there ever being a third one because it wasn't designed that way. It wasn't made that way. But with Raito, this is something that it could keep going on. I think Raito was brought back not simply just to bring Raito back. I think it was also to try and see, could we make a third Raito game? And Yamai clearly very much really wants to make it. So, no, I think Raito Remastered was a lot more strategic. And not only is it like what we deserve or whatever, I think it's almost necessary that they did this with Raito 1, and hopefully they'll do this with Raito 2, because Digital Devil Saga, both 1 and 2, are not that hard to come by, whereas Raito 1 and 2, good luck. Wicked Witch of the West Coast says, it's the only good remaster / re-release / remake Atlus has ever done. Now, in terms of remaster, I very much agree with you on that. I think a lot of the previous remasters they've done have not been great. Re-release, that's where I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. I assume you're talking about enhanced re-releases, because I think we've gotten plenty of really good enhanced versions. And I gotta disagree with you on that. In terms of remake, yeah, Raito's sitting in a weird spot where it's more than a remaster, but it's not a full-blown remake. And you could make an argument for either or. I quite liked Persona 3 Reload. I liked it quite a bit, but I also know a lot of people had a ton of issues, and they don't think it's anywhere near as good as the original, or if it's even good as its own thing. But I will fully agree with you in terms of like remaster. Disagree on re-release, remake. To each their own. Moving over to YouTube, Neutral Offensive says, a lot. A lot of which I can't really comment on because it's specifically about Raito Remaster as a remaster of the original game. And, you know, haven't played it, can't comment. But I still want to share what people think of the game, especially for someone who wrote so much. I'm going to still put this up on screen, and you know what? Let me know down in the comments below how you feel about Neutral Offensive's opinions and what they think. I think a lot of this does have merit. A lot of this I didn't even know was changed. I just assumed when I was playing it for the review, I just assumed that a lot of these, frankly, major changes were actually in there originally. So, yeah, let me know down in the comments. Hopefully my rambling gives you enough time to read through it. If not, you can just pause the video. You know, you can do that too. Mumamagi says, I ended up really disliking the addition of the jump button. It was finicky to control, and Raito was a little too floaty for a lot of the precise jumping the game wanted you to do. I found that a lot of the time I was losing boss fights because I get stun locked to hell and back by some jumping thing I mistimed by a hair, or landed badly due to the aforementioned floatiness. So the majority of the boss fights ended up being pretty frustrating. Unless no one else agrees with me, then I'm totally willing to admit it's a skill issue. Otherwise, I thoroughly enjoy the game, which is a hot take in of itself. First off, I don't know if it's a hot take to say that you thoroughly enjoyed the game. The majority of what I'm seeing, at least, you know, in my little sphere, is that people love this remaster. It's only really a little bit of distaste I've been seeing for it, negativity. But I don't know, we might just be seeing different things. Doesn't necessarily mean you or I are wrong. Anyway, I did want to talk about this one because I kind of agree. I don't dislike the jump button, but I do agree it feels weird, and I only ever found myself using it when I was required to do it to avoid those boss attacks. Otherwise, I was just kind of, you know, on the ground. I never really went into the sky at all. It just, the jump to me, it did feel too floaty, but it also felt a little too restrictive. There wasn't a lot of horizontal movement, and it just didn't feel good to me. And there are some attacks you can do in the air, but they never really felt like, oh yeah, this is totally worth it. I would rather just stick on the ground, and then if there's something up in the sky, just shoot it or use some magic on it, you know? I didn't care for the jump. I hope that's something that they could improve upon in a future game, whether it be a Raito 2 remastered or, you know, Raito 3. Unclan9182 says, Final Dungeon is a complete slog. Having to fight every major boss fight again, but harder, makes you feel like you've made zero progress the whole story. I mean, no offense when I say this, never play Mega Man. The Quiet by Sharp says, the game needed more music, very badly. A lot of the songs are overused and hamper the story moments and exploration. So, I don't think it hampers story moments and exploration, but I don't think you're necessarily wrong for wanting more music. I did notice that I was hearing a lot of the same tracks over and over again. It just didn't bother me, but I don't think you're wrong for wanting more music. It does help vary things up if there are more tracks. I think I'm just used to playing a lot of older SMT games in which it's really just like, there's like 30 songs in the entirety of SMT1, and like half of those are maybe like a minute loop. So, I don't know. It didn't bother me. Finally, the Scary Pidgey says, the Virgin Godo versus the Chad Morgana. Man, you better get the fuck out of here! Thank you all so much for watching. I know it hasn't been that long since the last dumb Atlus Twitter arguments video, or DATAs for short, but work has just been crazy busy the last few weeks, and I just don't have the time nor energy to sit down and work on my next main video yet. Unlike last summer when I got burnt out, I really do want to make videos. I just don't got the time, you know? Normally, I have some backup series that are easier to make, like Is a Good Game and Datas, to bridge the gap between the big boys, but I worry about Datas specifically losing some of the appeal if I do them too often. However, I feel like I can justify this one by theming it around Raito. There's still so much talk about the game a month later, and I want to keep the conversation going, you know? If you enjoyed this video and you want to help support the channel, there are 3 ways to do it. First, check out FiGGYZ and make sure to use either the link in the description below or the code Macca at checkout so they'll know I sent you. Second, check out my Patreon or become a YouTube member. Normally I upload videos on Fridays, but I usually have them ready to go days in advance. Both my patrons and channel members get early access to new videos the second I upload them for as little as $1 a month. So if you want to catch them early, you know what to do. Finally, third, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future uploads. Heck, why not leave a comment and tell everyone your hot take about Raido Remastered? Anything you do goes a long way in helping the channel grow and making me feel good about myself, you know? You all have a wonderful day. I'm gonna try and not die at work so I can go home and play Donkey Kong.